Hello, this is Yaakov Kronenberg from Jerusalem in another class in the series of classes on Aquarius ascendant and Saturn in the different signs. Tonight we'll be talking about Saturn in Scorpio. When you have Saturn in Scorpio, it's squared to the ascendant, right? Because the ascendant will be in Aquarius. You have to always know a square is always when one sign is in a male sign and the other sign is in a female sign. Aquarius is a male ascendant, air, and Scorpio is a female sign, and it's water. So there's a conflict between the deep emotional, emotional needs of the Scorpio with the intellectual type Aquarius. So the Saturn in Scorpio is going to push the Aquarius more towards trying to take a more an emotional approach to life. There's always going to be a fight between that the emotional needs of the Scorpio, the deep emotional needs, with the Aquarian fear of commitment and emotional attachment. That's what sticks out right away when you see that Scorpio there on the 10th house cusp. If we're going to look at things from a psychological perspective, the Scorpio in the 10th house, of course, indicates that the Aquarian is going to try to fulfill themselves through their career. And of course, like I said in the introduction, the Aquarians have a tendency to sublimate their emotional desires and transfer them to their jobs. So they have to be careful not to make their jobs their love affairs and make wrap their whole lives around their jobs, because what they're really looking for is emotional commitment, and so they have to work on that. But in any case, with the Scorpio in the 10th house, with Saturn and Scorpio in the 10th, Saturn is nice in the 10th house. If you have a malefic, you like to use it for your career. Saturn's natural place is the 10th house. Saturn is like future-oriented. Saturn wants to get ahead. And what better place to do that than in the job, in the career area? And usually a person who has Saturn in the 10th, they tend to get pretty high in life. They tend to be very successful, because that's their drive, and then they have their ruling planet on the top of the chart, which means they think highly of themselves. They think highly of themselves, and they work hard to get ahead, right? And remember, Saturn is a malefic, and it's in a malefic sign, Scorpio, in the sign of Mars. So there's going to be a pull and push, sometimes hot, sometimes cold, but it's a strong indication, as the ruling planet is working 100% and is working towards the career. When you have Saturn in the 10th, it's hard to say what kind of career, because there's a lot of possibilities when you have Saturn in Scorpio there in the 10th house. A lot of the times it's people that are very interested in secrets. Scorpio likes to uncover things and makes scientists. I've seen scientists with this ruling planet Scorpio, Saturn and Scorpio in the 10th. People, astrologers, I've seen with that indication. I've seen people in business. It's good for finance, because Scorpio rules natural ruler of the 8th house, other people's money. I've seen a lot of people in with that kind of ascendant working in those different areas. Now that we're talking about finance, so I'm going to do a chart tonight of a very famous man from the 1800s, and he was a great financier, and he was in Aquarius with Saturn in Scorpio. So you see, Scorpio ruling the 8th, the natural ruler of the 8th house, which is other people's money, and he started out in life as a banker, dealing with other people's money. and he became tremendously famous, tremendously wealthy, and his name is J.P. Morgan. There's still a bank today that's named after him, and he was one of the wealthiest men of his times, and he has a very interesting chart. We could spend lots of time on it, but our class is limited. We want to concentrate mostly on the ascendant and take a look at that, and the ruling planet, and a little bit about Uranus, which is the alternative ruling planet, the modern ruling planet. And his chart is very, very powerful. The Uranus, it's almost right on the ascendant. So you see he's in Aquarius rising. He's got Saturn in Scorpio. It's in the 9th, but it's working for the 10th house, 10 signs away. And it's the highest chart. It's the only planet that's high in his chart, so it's tremendously powerful by elevation in his chart. And it's in a Martian sign. And he also has 4 planets in Aries in the house of money, which is also a Martian sign. So he's a very, very Martian type of man. And when you got 4 planets in the 4th house, it makes you want money, right? He's got a stellium there that say competes with the ascendant. Right? Even though he's got Aquarius there on the ascendant, he had 4 planets in the house of money, so he's going to go for money, this man. And if you look at his chart, all those 4 planets are connected with the Mars, right, by disposition. In other words, the 4 planets in Aries means he wants money, but doesn't mean he's going to be super rich. So you have to look at other things to see the super rich in his chart. And one of the things you can see is that at the dispositor of the Aries is Mars, which is connected with the 7th house, Mars in Leo. And Mars is in tight conjunction with Jupiter, the planet of good fortune, the planet of money. So you see he has everything working towards money, and he has that Mars and the Sun in mutual reception. Mars is in the Sun sign, and the Sun is in Mars sign. And people say he was a very, very powerful man. He was very big. You know, you should know that when Saturn is very strong in the chart, it makes a person very tall, and Mars makes somebody short. It's interesting. They say he was a very big, powerful man. When he went into the room, you felt like a hurricane came into the room. He was, tremendously powerful. And you see that in the chart. With the 4 planets in Leo, the Saturn ruler, so such a very masculine type of chart, right? Everything is in masculine signs. Masculine ascendant, 4 planets in Aries, a masculine sign, 2 planets in Leo, midheaven in a male sign. But he is interesting. He had a deformity in his face. His nose, for some reason, was he had a problem with his nose, that his skin there became all very red, and then grew stuff on his nose, and he didn't want the doctors to take it off by surgery, because when he was a kid he had infantile seizures, and he was afraid they would come back, and so he was very, very, very hard to look at him. It made him a very unattractive man, but he sort of overcame that. But it's interesting, so you see he has that Uranus on the ascendants. That's one indication of course, not everybody's got Uranus on the ascendant is going to have deformities. Most 99% of the Uranus is on the ascendant won't. It just makes them feel different. Uranus on the ascendant makes a person feel different, exceptional, unusual, and things like that. In his chart, he had Saturn exactly trying to Uranus. So he's got also that Saturn element. Saturn can sort of take away from attractiveness. And he also had, he had a lot of malefics. He had Saturn and Mars connected to the ascendant, but he also had the Sun there, the power. And Mercury, intelligence. He had almost all the planets connected loosely or strongly with the ascendant. Tremendous power drive. But he had the unfortunate situation where he was not a very attractive man. And but he became tremendously successful in his lifetime. And I thank everybody for listening.